Good afternoon. How's everybody doing? Great to be learning with you on a Sunday, Yom Rishon. Let's light up the darkness. Who's in the house on September 7th, 2025, when Guns N' Moses opens in 500 theaters nationwide? Such a big moment for us, for our family, for our team, for our company, our collaborators, our cast, our crew. I probably shouldn't be teaching this week at all because we're so busy getting the word out. But hopefully, we can inspire ourselves, inspire each other to keep learning Torah even when it's challenging. Greater merit for learning when it's challenging. Who's in the house? Yehud in South Carolina, Gordo in Scotland, Bella in Florida, Guy in Ohio, Joe in the Inland Empire, Melissa in Great Neck Lorraine in Texas, Sandra in San Diego, Bella in Texas. I'm Yisrael Chai, Sharon in New Jersey, Bella is excited to go see Guns N' Moses in Venice, Florida. And did I not see that Yehudit is excited and gonna have to leave the class a little early to go see Guns N' Moses in Florence, South Carolina. We are indeed across the country. 5 nights only. Please, please, please get the word out. Tell everybody you think might be interested in this movie. Let's face it, a movie about Jewish self-defense, Jews becoming accountable for their own defense. In this climate, it's off narrative. We've really, we've had a lot of decline to cover from legacy media outlets. And of course, that hurts a small movie. But we're back in theaters thanks to audience demand. The people want the movie. The 96 audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. All of that has helped this unprecedented Fathom release. Their 20-year history, they never brought a movie back immediately after its initial release and took it wide. And it's just because everything is unusual, unprecedented, one-off about this movie. It is off narrative, but it is an important narrative. And above all, as I got to do my job as a director and entertain you, this is a big screen, edge of your seat thriller. You will have a great time. If you haven't seen it already, you can tell from the trailer and you can feel good about recommending to your friends around the country. But they got to go out and support this movie this week. 5 nights only, September 7th through 11th. Okay, today's daf is page 5 here in Tractate Horayos, the 28th volume of the Talmud. Today, opening Mishna number 5 in chapter 1. Generally speaking, the laws of what happens when a high court, a Sanhedrin, issues an erroneous ruling and the people rely on it. Do we trigger the special offering, communal offering, for this situation where a majority of the people, the congregation of Israel, make a mistake, let's say consume something that is actually prohibited, based on, what's the word I'm looking for, relying on this ruling of the court that turns out to be erroneous. Does the court bring that special offering? Are the people who rely on the ruling, right? There was an unwitting transgression since they thought it was permitted based on the ruling of the court. Do they bring a sin offering? Do individuals bring a sin offering, which is the normal thing to do for an unwitting transgression? And of course, all of this only applies when the Holy Temple is standing in Jerusalem. Because we don't bring offerings and when the temple is not. And so we pray for the coming of Mashiach and the rebuilding of the third temple. Mishna 5, right at the bottom of page 4b. If the judges of the court issued an erroneous ruling and the entire congregation or a majority thereof performed the transgression on the basis of their ruling, the judges bring a bull as an unwitting communal sin offering. And if the erroneous ruling involved idol worship, the judges bring a bull and a goat, as it is written in the Torah, see Numbers 15:24. This is the statement of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says, it is not the court that brings the offering, it is the people. 12 tribes, each of which perform the transgression, bring 12 bulls, i.e. each tribe brings one, and for idol worship, they bring 12 bulls and 12 goats, as each tribe is a congregation. They're not disagreeing on the circumstances that trigger the communal sin offering, right? What they're disagreeing on is who brings the communal sin offering. Is it the court on behalf of the nation, or is it each of the tribes on behalf of its tribe? Now we're at the top of page 5a. Rabbi Shimon says they bring 13 bulls, and for idol worship they bring 13 bulls and 13 goats, a bull and a goat for each and every tribe, and a bull and a goat for the court. Rabbi Shimon, kind of a combination of Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda there. The Mishnah continues, if the judges of the court issued a ruling, and at least 7 tribes, or a majority of each of those tribes perform the transgression on the basis of their ruling, the judges bring a bull. And for idol worship, they bring a bull and a goat. This is the statement of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says the 7 tribes that sinned, they bring the 7 bulls. Each tribe brings 1 bull, and each of the rest of the tribes, i.e. those that did not sin, brings 1 bull on the basis of the sin of the other tribes. As even those who did not sin bring an offering on the basis of the action of the sinners, because we're talking about the majority of the nation, and as we've seen, a majority means that the nation sinned. Rabbi Shimon says when 7 tribes sin, 8 bulls are brought as offerings, 1 bull for each and every tribe, and 1 bull for the court. And for idol worship, 8 bulls and 8 goats are brought, 1 bull and 1 goat for each and every tribe, and 1 bull and 1 goat for the court. As we've seen, is it a majority of the people or a majority of the tribes? If the court, either way, can trigger the communal offering, but then the way the bulls are brought is a little different. If the court of one of the tribes issued a ruling, so a kind of regional court, right? A court for one of the tribes. If the court of one of the tribes issued a ruling and the majority of that tribe performed the transgression on the basis of its ruling, that tribe is liable to bring an offering, and the rest of all the tribes are exempt. This is the statement of Rabbi Yehuda. And the rabbis say one is liable to bring an offering for an unwitting communal sin only for rulings of the high court alone, as it is stated, and if the entire Ada, the entire assembly of Israel, shall act unwittingly, from which it is derived that there is liability only for a ruling of the assembly, which is to say the court of the entire people, the great Sanhedrin, but not for a ruling of the assembly of that particular tribe. That's Mishnah 5. Now the Gemara. The Gemara elaborates on the dispute cited in the Mishnah. The sages taught in a Baraisa in a case where the judges knew that they issued an erroneous ruling, and they erred in remembering which erroneous ruling they issued. So one might have thought that they would be liable to bring an offering for this. And the verse states, and the sin they sinned became known, the congregation shall sacrifice, Leviticus 4:14, indicating that liability is only in a case where the sin became known to the court that issued the erroneous ruling. and not in a case where it became known only to the sinners. In this case, the sinners are certain that they sinned, but the court does not know the sin with regard to which it issued the ruling. This has got to be a hypothetical. Okay, maybe in the ancient world, they didn't have the same kind of recording system for issuing high court rulings that we have in the modern world. But they knew what they ruled on, right? They knew what they ruled on. And if they made a mistake such that they had to, issue a reversal, they would certainly know what they were reversing. But what we're doing here is testing the limits of the law. What are the actual elements of the law? And it has to be that they made a mistake. They realized they made a mistake. They issued that reversal. But they knew what they made a mistake on. It's not enough that they just made a mistake and they don't know what mistake they made. If that's what it was, even if the sinners knew which the error was, but the court didn't, this wouldn't trigger the communal offering. From the phrase that they sinned, it is derived, if 2 tribes sinned, they bring 2 bulls, 1 for each tribe. If 3 tribes sinned, they bring 3 bulls, 1 for each tribe. Or perhaps that phrase says only that if 2 individuals sinned, they bring 2 bulls, 1 for each individual. If 3 individuals sinned, they bring 3 bulls, 1 for each individual. Therefore, the verse states, the congregation, from which it is derived, the congregation is liable, and each and every congregation is liable. How so? If 2 tribes sinned, they bring 2 bulls. If 7 tribes sinned, they bring 7 bulls. And each of the rest of the tribes that did not sin brings 1 bull on the basis of the sin of the other tribes, as even those tribes that did not sin bring an offering on the basis of the actions of the sinners. For that reason, congregation is stated in the verse to render each and every congregation liable. This is the statement of Rabbi Yehuda. Now, this Baraisa, very similar to our Mishnah, but nuanced differences. The Baraisa continues, Rabbi Shimon says 7 tribes that sinned bring 7 bulls, and the court brings 1 bull on the basis of their actions, as the term congregation is stated below, and the term congregation is stated above, where it said, and the matter is hidden from the eyes of the congregation. So just as with regard to the term congregation that is stated above, that references to the court, i.e. to the eyes of the congregation, together with the congregation, so too, with regard to the term congregation that is stated in the lower verse, with regard to liability to bring an offering, the reference is to the court together with the congregation. That's why Rabbi Shimon would agree that the court has to bring its own bull in addition to the bulls being brought by the tribes. Rabbi Meir says, in the case of 7 tribes that sinned, the court brings a bull on the basis of their sin, and the members of the tribe are exempt. As the term congregation is stated below, the congregation shall sacrifice, and the term congregation is stated above, and the matter is hidden from the eyes of the congregation. So how does Rabbi Meir read this? He says that just as with regard to the term congregation that is stated above, the reference is to the court, not the public, so too, with regard to the term congregation that is stated below, the reference is to the court and not to the public, right? The definition of an erroneous ruling and then the consequence of the erroneous ruling. According to Rabbi Meir, it's that the majority of the people followed the erroneous ruling. The consequence in that case is that the court brings the offerings, not the people. Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon would disagree. Now that Baraisa concludes, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says, in the name of Rabbi Meir, if 6 tribes sinned, and in terms of population, they constitute a majority. So we don't have a majority of the tribes, only 6 of 12, but we have a majority of the population. If 6 tribes sinned, and in terms of population, they constitute a majority of the congregation, or if 7 tribes, which constitute a majority of the tribes, sinned, even though in terms of population they do not constitute a majority of the congregation, the court brings a bull. Meaning that Shimon ben Elazar is telling you that you can define or you can meet the requirements of majority either through majority of tribes or majority of population. The Gemara proceeds to analyze the Baraisa that we just cited. The master said, and the sin that they sinned became known, right? That's the verse in the Torah. indicating that liability is only in a case where the sin became known to the court that issued the erroneous ruling, and not in a case where it became known only to the sinners, but not to the court. Who is the Tana whose opinion is expressed here? Rabbi Yehuda said that Rav said, and some say it was Rabbah who said that this is not in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. As we learned in the Baraisa that there is a dispute with regard to one who had two pieces before him, one of them prohibited because it is forbidden fat, and one of them prohibited because it is left over from an offering after the time allotted for its consumption, known as nosar. And he ate one, but he does not know whether he ate the forbidden fat or the nosar. Right, so he has two pieces of fat from a meaty fat that are prohibited. He's not allowed to eat either one. He wait a second. Right, so both are prohibited. Presumably, he didn't know that either one of them was prohibited, and so he ate one. So that means his sin was unwitting. What he doesn't know now is which verse he violated, right? Did he take a permitted fat, right, a piece of the cow that is permitted for him to eat, but that particular piece is prohibited because it came from an offering, let's say a peace offering when the temple is standing, parts of which are eaten by the owner with his family celebrating in Jerusalem, but there's a time limit. It has to be eaten within a certain amount of time. I don't know I can't remember exactly, for a peace offering, probably a day and a night. And after that time elapses, they have to burn it, dispose of it. They can't eat it anymore. So if he eats that, he's violating the prohibition on nosar. And the other piece is from a part of the cow that is prohibited. And if he eats that, he's violating the prohibition on eating something that's not kosher. Now, it could be that the court made a mistake and said that the one that's not kosher is kosher. That'll be a separate issue. But the immediate question is, he ate something that's prohibited, but he's not sure which prohibition he violated. And then, the atonement might be different. The sin offering that you bring might be different. Or even if it's the same, but if he's bringing without knowing which which prohibition he violated, he might not qualify for the sin offering. So let's see. You might have to bring the asham, right? The for uncertain guilt offering. But let's see what he brings. Okay, so Rabbi Eliezer says, in this case where he's got two, he ate one of two, both were prohibited, but for different reasons. And he's not sure which he ate. That's the point. Rabbi Eliezer says, whichever way you look at it, he is liable to bring a sin offering. If it was a forbidden fat that he ate, he is liable. And if it was nosar that he ate, he is liable. Therefore, he must bring an offering. Well, likewise, in the case in the Baraisa, since the court issued an erroneous ruling, and it is known that the erroneous ruling was with regard to a matter for which it is liable to bring an offering, according to Rabbi Eliezer, it should make no difference that they do not know the precise nature of their error, and they should be liable to bring an offering. Nevertheless, the ruling of the Baraisa is that they are exempt, counter to what one would expect to be the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. Rav Ashi said, even if you say that the Baraisa is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer, one can explain the ruling of the Baraisa. Here in the Baraisa, it is different, as it is written, and the sin that they sinned became known. So the verse underscores that the judges must be aware of the specific sin for which they are liable to bring an offering. And the Gemara asks, well, there too, with regard to an individual sin offering, isn't it written, or if his sin that he sinned became known to him, leading to the same conclusion? And the Gemara answers, in the case of an individual sin offering, that expression is necessary for the Tana to exclude one who acts unawares. One is liable to bring a sin offering for an unwitting transgression only if he performs the action with intent. He knew that he was eating some fat. Later, he found out that it was prohibited. Then he brings the sin offering. But if he was just, eating candy, and then later someone said to him, there was some forbidden fat mixed in with that candy. He didn't know he was eating forbidden fat at all. So that's a different action than the one that would trigger the sin offering. The Gemara asks, what is the reasoning of Rabbi Yehuda, who holds that even one tribe that sinned is liable to bring an offering? That we can say one tribe constitutes a congregation following an erroneous ruling perhaps of their court, and therefore they bring the offering, or one tribe follows an erroneous ruling of the high court, even though the rest of Israel did not. And according to this view, that tribe brings an offering. That's Rabbi Yehuda. The others, Rabbi Meir, would certainly disagree. So let's see. What is the reasoning of Rabbi Yehuda, who holds that even one tribe that sinned is liable to bring an offering? And I'm sorry, this is not against Rabbi Meir. This is against the majority. This is from the later part of our Mishnah. And the Gemara answers that he holds there are 4 mentions of the term congregation written. Congregation, the congregation, congregation, the congregation. It's written 4 times in these relevant verses. So the term the congregation appears in both verses that name what an erroneous ruling is and what the consequence is. Since the Torah could have written the term congregation in both instances, Rabbi Yehuda derives 2 matters from each of the 2 terms, one from the term congregation itself and another from the fact that the second one is written with the definitive article the, right? It says congregation and then the congregation. And then in the other verse it's congregation and the congregation. So adding this definite article the suggests to Rabbi Yehuda there's something to be interpreted here. One serves to render each and every congregation liable, as a tribe is also called a congregation, and one serves to establish that the ruling is dependent on the court and the action is dependent on the congregation, and one serves to teach the concept of drawing, i.e. a tribe that did not sin is drawn after a tribe that did sin and is liable to bring an offering. And the last one serves to teach that a tribe that performed the transgression on the basis of the ruling of its tribal court is also liable to bring a bull as an unwitting communal offering. And what is the reasoning of Rabbi Shimon, who holds that 7 tribes that sin bring 7 bulls and the court brings 1 bull? He holds that there are 3 mentions of the term congregation written. The first 2 are the congregation and then congregation, which he interprets in the manner that Rabbi Yehuda interpreted. He counts the third and last mention of the term the congregation, as in the term from the eyes of the congregation. This is written in the typical manner of the verse, as people say from the eyes of so-and-so, and the definitive article the does not serve to teach another law, so he only has 3 instances of the word to interpret, not 4. Of those 3, one serves to render each and every congregation liable, as a tribe is also called a congregation, and the other 2 come so that a verbal analogy can be derived, meaning the term congregation is stated below and the term congregation is stated above. Just as with regard to the term congregation that is stated there above, the references to the court, i.e. the eyes of the congregation together with the congregation, so too with regard to the term congregation that is stated here, concerning liability to bring an offering, the reference is to the court together with the congregation. And what is the reasoning of Rabbi Meir, who holds that the court brings a bull on the basis of its sin and the members of the tribe are exempt? He does not derive a law from the difference between the terms congregation and the congregation. He does not consider the addition of the definite article to be significant. Therefore, he holds that there are 2 mentions of the term congregation written, and they are necessary for him to derive the term congregation is stated below and the term congregation is stated above. Just as with regard to the term congregation that is stated there above, the references to the court, not the public, so too with regard to the congregation that is stated here below, the references to the court and not to the public. Again, they're arguing on who brings the offering when you have a high court issue an erroneous ruling that the majority follows unwittingly, thinking that something is permitted when in fact it is prohibited. Who brings the offering? Is it the court, Rabbi Meir? Is it the people, tribe by tribe, Rabbi Yehuda? Or is it both the tribes and the court, Rabbi Shimon? And what is the reasoning of Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, who holds that if 6 tribes sinned, and in terms of population they constitute a majority of the congregation, or if 7 tribes sinned, even though in terms of population they do not constitute a majority of the congregation, the court brings a bull? Where does he get that we can get to majority, either through number of tribes or number of people? It is written, then it shall be, if it was performed unwittingly, hidden from the eyes of the congregation, in Numbers 15:24. So apparently the reference is even to a minority of the people, as from the eyes is written, indicating not all of them, but some of them. And it is written, as for all the people, it was performed unwittingly in Numbers 15:26. And this tells you that based on the principle, the law, the halakhic status of a majority is like that of the entirety. If the majority of the congregation sinned, then yes, the court is liable to bring an offering. If the minority sinned, then no, the court is not liable, but the individuals would be. How so? How can this apparent contradiction be resolved? And the Gemara explains, if 6 tribes sinned and they constitute a majority of the congregation, or if 7 tribes sinned, even though in terms of population they do not constitute a majority of the congregation, the court is liable to bring a bull. Although in both cases they are not a majority in every sense, the court is liable, as a reference to the minority is also indicated in the verse. Now we're on page 5b. The Gemara asks, and Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Meir, from where do they derive the fact that the ruling is dependent on the court and the action is dependent on the congregation? Right? You need both elements to trigger the communal sin offering. Abaye said that they derive it from a verse. As the verse states in the passive form, then it shall be, if it was performed unwittingly, hidden from the eyes of the congregation in Numbers 15:24. And this indicates that the action of the congregation was generated by the ruling of the court. Rava said it is derived from that which is stated, for all the people it was performed unwittingly. The term all the people indicates that the unwitting action is common to all, the court through its ruling, and the people through their action. The Gemara notes, and both of the verses are necessary, as, had the merciful one written only, then it shall be, if it was performed unwittingly, hidden from the eyes of the congregation in Numbers 15:24, I would say there is liability to bring an offering, even if only a minority of the congregation sinned. Therefore, God wrote, for all the people it was performed unwittingly. And had the merciful one written only, for all the people it was performed unwittingly, then I would say there is no liability unless the court performs the transgression together with the majority of the congregation, as the verse appears to be a single unwitting action. Therefore it is written, then it shall be, if it was performed unwittingly, hidden from the eyes of the congregation, indicating that the unwitting act was performed on the basis of the ruling of the court, and the action of the court is not significant in this regard. We don't require that the members of the court themselves follow that erroneous ruling in order to trigger the communal offering, even if they didn't, take advantage of that ruling, so to speak, but the majority of the people did, and it was based on this ruling of the court. We are in the situation where we bring the communal offering. The Gemara challenges, but when these verses are written, they are written with regard to an erroneous ruling involving idol worship, not concerning erroneous rulings involving other transgressions. These particular verses we've been talking about. So the Gemara, does that mean that these rules of the majority only apply if the erroneous ruling was with respect to idolatry? Or can we extend these definitions of majority to any kinds of erroneous rulings? And the Gemara explains, we derive it by means of a verbal analogy between from the eyes of the congregation written with regard to other transgressions and the phrase from the eyes of the congregation written concerning idol worship, and therefore we can extend the definitions of majority to both areas. New subject. The Mishna teaches if the court of one of the tribes issued a ruling, and the majority of that tribe performed the transgression on the basis of its ruling, that tribe is liable to bring an offering, and the rest of all of the tribes are exempt. This is the statement of Rabbi Yehuda, right? So he doesn't say that the ones who didn't sin have to bring a bull because they're members of the nation. He's saying only the ones that sin. Let's keep reading. A dilemma was raised before the sages, according to Rabbi Yehuda, in the case of one tribe that performed a transgression on the basis of the ruling of the high court. Are the other tribes liable to bring an offering or not? And the Gemara elaborates, do we say that it is specifically in a case where 7 tribes sinned, that the other tribes each bring an offering together with them, because there is a majority of the tribes that sinned, but in a case where only 1 tribe sinned, where there is no majority of the tribes that sinned, then the other tribes do not bring an offering? Or perhaps it is no different, and the other tribes are drawn after even 1 tribe. And the Gemara suggests, come in here, resolution of this dilemma from a Baraisa, which teaches, what do they bring? They bring one bull. Rabbi Shimon says 2 bulls. And the Gemara elaborates, what are we dealing with in this baraisa? If we say the reference is to a case where 7 tribes sinned, Rabbi Shimon requires 8 bulls, 1 for each tribe that sinned and 1 for the court. So rather, the reference must be to a case where 1 tribe sinned. And the Gemara clarifies, in what circumstances did the tribe sin? If the tribe sinned on the basis of the ruling of the tribal court, Rabbi Shimon does not accept the law that an erroneous ruling of the tribal court renders them liable to bring an offering. Rather, is it not so that they sinned on the basis of the ruling of the high court? So, high court issued a ruling. A majority of the nation did not follow it, neither by majority of tribes nor majority of population. But there was one tribe, the majority of that tribe followed that erroneous ruling of the high court. So who brings a bull? Sounds like the tribe, but not the high court. So the Gemara asks, and who is the first Tana who says that they must bring 1 bull? If we say it is Rabbi Meir, that's difficult. Doesn't he require that the majority perform a transgression in order for any bull to be brought? A transgression performed by 1 tribe does not suffice. So rather, is the first Tana not Rabbi Yehuda? And the reference is to a case where 1 tribe sinned, and he deems it liable to bring 1 bull, and the remaining tribes are not liable to bring an offering. But the Gemara rejects this proof and says there is an alternative explanation of the baraisa. What are we dealing with here? With a case where 6 tribes sinned, and in terms of population, they do constitute a majority of the congregation. And the first Tana in the baraisa is Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. As it is taught in the baraisa, that Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says in the name of Rabbi Meir, if 6 tribes sinned, and in terms of population, they constitute a majority, or if 7 tribes, which constitute a majority of the tribes, sin, then, even though in terms of population they do not constitute a majority of the congregation, the court brings a bull. Okay. So, how does that explain our question? So coming here, a resolution to the dilemma from a baraisa, which teaches that Rabbi Yehuda says, in the case of a tribe that performed a transgression on the basis of a ruling of its tribal court, that tribe is liable and all the rest of the tribes are exempt. But if it was on the basis of the ruling of the high court, even the rest of the tribes are liable. Interesting. And the Gemara concludes, learn from it, that Rabbi Yehuda holds that the other tribes are liable in a case where 1 tribe performed the transgression on the basis of the ruling of the high court, but that would seem to be the minority view. Rav Ashi said the language of the Mishna is also precise and supported that conclusion. As the Tana teaches, if the court of one of the tribes issued an erroneous ruling and the majority of that tribe performed the transgression on the basis of its ruling, that tribe is liable to bring an offering and all the rest of the tribes are exempt. Why do I need the Tana to teach and the rest of the tribes are exempt? Didn't he already teach that tribe is liable? And since he teaches that tribe is liable, we know automatically that the rest of the tribes are exempt. Rather, this Tana is teaching us that it is specifically in a case where the tribe performed an unwitting transgression on the basis of the ruling of its tribal court that the rest of the tribes are exempt. Therefore, in a case where 1 tribe performed an unwitting transgression on the basis of the ruling of the high court, even the rest of the tribes are liable. And the Gemara concludes, learn from the Mishna, that this is Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. A dilemma was raised before the sages in a case where 1 tribe performed the transgression on the basis of the ruling of the high court. According to Rabbi Shimon, are they liable to bring an offering or not? And the Gemara suggests, come in here, a resolution from a baraisa that we cited earlier. What do they bring? They bring 1 bull, but Rabbi Shimon says 2 bulls. And the Gemara elaborates, what are we dealing with in this baraisa if we say that the reference is to a case where 7 tribes sinned? That is difficult. In that case, are 2 bulls brought? 8 bulls are brought, according to Rabbi Shimon. So rather, the reference must be to a case where 1 tribe sinned. And in what circumstances did the 1 tribe sin? If we say that tribe sinned on the basis of the ruling of its tribal court, Rabbi Shimon does not accept the law that an erroneous ruling of a tribal court renders them liable to bring an offering. So rather, the circumstances must be that they sinned on the basis of a ruling of the high court. So apparently, even Rabbi Shimon agrees that in the case of a high court ruling that leads 1 tribe to sin, that tribe brings an offering. and presumably, and the court has to bring one too, since two bulls. But the Gemara rejects this proof, and how can you understand that this is the reference? Who then is the first Tana who says that they must bring one bull? If it is Rabbi Meir, doesn't work. Doesn't he require that the majority and not just one tribe perform a transgression in order for there to be any liability? If it is Rabbi Yehuda, that also doesn't work, as in his opinion, the rest of the tribes are also liable to bring an offering. Rather, who is the first Tana of this Baraisa? The first Tana is Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. And the reference is to a case where 6 tribes sinned, but in population number, they were the majority. And this Baraisa, as it is taught in the Baraisa, and this Baraisa is as it is taught in the Baraisa that was cited earlier. In that case, Rabbi Shimon holds that 2 bulls are brought, one by the congregation, one by the court, and no proof may be cited from here with regard to the opinion of Rabbi Shimon in the case of one tribe that performed the transgression on the basis of a ruling of the high court. So the Gemara suggests, come in here, resolution to the dilemma from a Baraisa which teaches, and the rabbis say one tribe is never liable, other than for violating a transgression on the basis of the ruling of the high court. And the Gemara clarifies who are the rabbis cited in this Baraisa. If we say it's Rabbi Meir, but he requires a majority to perform a transgression in order for any liability. Rather, is it not the case that the rabbis are, that when we say the rabbis, we mean Rabbi Shimon? And the Gemara affirms, yes, conclude from it that it is Rabbi Shimon who holds that one tribe that performed the transgression on the basis of the ruling of the high court is liable to bring a bull. New subject, I'm almost done. Questions or comments, please get them in now. The Gemara elaborates on a matter raised earlier, and Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon, who hold one tribe that performs a transgression is liable. From where do they derive that one tribe can be characterized as a congregation? Don't we need some kind of larger group than one tribe? And the sages say that it is derived from a verse, as it is written, and Yehoshaphat stood in the congregation of Yehuda and Jerusalem before the new courtyard in the house of the Lord, 2 Chronicles 20, verse 5. And the Gemara asks, what is the meaning of new in this verse? And Rabbi Yochanan says that on that occasion they introduced new matters and said, one who was ritually impure, tameh, who immersed that day and is waiting for nightfall for the purification process to be completed, may not enter even the Levite camp. From the fact that the verse employs the term congregation in reference to Yehuda and Jerusalem, it can be inferred that one tribe is characterized as a congregation, right? So we're talking about you can't enter the temple when you're tameh, even if you've completed your purification, but you still have to wait for nightfall for the actual process to be fully completed. Until nightfall, you can't enter the Levite camp. So remember that we have this parallels drawn in the wilderness, right? We had the encampment, right, of the children of Israel, 2 million, some say 3 million people. Then we had in the concentric circles, the tribe of Levi, right? The Levites were in the center surrounding the Mishkan, the tabernacle. And then we have, the camp of the temple or of the Kohanim, right, where only the priests could go. And so once the temple is established in Jerusalem, so I think Jerusalem is considered the encampment, right, the encampment of the children of Israel, and the Levite camp is the precincts of the Holy Temple, the Temple Mount. And then the camp of the Kohanim, of the priests, right, is the temple itself, or at least the inner parts that only the Kohanim could enter. I could be wrong about that, exactly how we make those parallel concentric circles. But here we're not really learning about that. What we're learning about is that because they referred to it that way, it teaches us that a tribe, in this case Yehuda, Judah, could be considered a congregation under the definition of the term congregation. So Rav Acha Bar Yaakov objects to this. From where do you draw this conclusion? Perhaps Jerusalem is different, as Jerusalem was also in the tribal land of Benjamin, right, of Benjamin. Accordingly, it was shared by the two tribes of Yehuda and Benjamin. So rather, Rav Acha bar Yaakov said that the proof that a tribe can be characterized as a congregation is derived from another verse entirely, as it is written that Yaakov, Jacob, recounted what God said to him when he returned from Padan, right, when he comes back with his family after having been away for 20 years. And Jacob said to me, behold, I will make you fruitful and multiply you, and I will make of you a congregation of peoples, in Genesis 48:4. Now, who was born to him from that time on? Only Benjamin. So conclude from it that this is what the Merciful One is saying to Jacob. Another congregation shall now be born to you. So apparently, one tribe, right, since each of the sons of Jacob is the father of a tribe, apparently one tribe can be characterized as a congregation. Rav Shaba said to Rav Kahana, perhaps this is what the Merciful One is saying to Jacob. It is when Benjamin is born to you that you will have 12 tribes who are together characterized as a congregation. So you don't call the nation a congregation until it has the full retinue of the 12 tribes, but that doesn't mean that each tribe can be characterized as a congregation until you have the full quorum, so to speak. Rav Kahana said to him, but is that to say that 12 tribes are characterized as a congregation and 11 tribes are not characterized as a congregation? It has already been established that even 2 tribes are characterized as a congregation. So rather, it is apparent from this verse that even 1 tribe is characterized as a congregation. We'll stop there. I'll take one comment. And a reminder that tomorrow, again, special time, noon Pacific. Tomorrow, Monday, noon Pacific. And at that time, we'll announce the Tuesday time. As of now, I think that the Tuesday class, pretty sure, is going to be at noon Pacific. Wednesday, I'm not sure yet. It's going to be regular time, 6 p.m. or noon Pacific. Thursday for sure, noon Pacific. Friday's always noon Pacific, right? So for now, tomorrow, Monday, again, noon Pacific special time. And if you're in the LA area, come out to the Q&A. Tonight's, I think, at AMC Universal is sold out, but tomorrow's at Regal Sherman Oaks Galleria, where Nina and I will be appearing for a Q&A, seats are still available for that. Tomorrow, Monday night, 7 o'clock show. Ilanit says, I'm glad the sages have worked all this out. I will just do what I'm told in faith when the next temple rises, as this tractate is rather beyond me. Very good. That's what I've got for us today. And with God's help, we'll be together again tomorrow, Monday, regular time, noon Pacific. All the best.